Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are in part three of our lecture on designing instructional materials. So, we have talked about how learning happened. We have talked about what are the conditions that we can enable learning to happen. And we talked about the four different literacies: assessment literacy, academic literacy, information literacy, and also social literacy that university students should have. Yeah, when they come in to study with us at university. And we talked about what are the things that make people become good in something. We have also talked about what are the things that will encourage people to become better, yeah, in the things that they're learning. And how do people know that they're doing well in something. We also talked about the factors that enable that to happen. And we also talked about, in the last video, we talked about how learning actually goes wrong. Yeah. So I want to start with this slide, which talks about the constructive alignment, which has really been talked about for quite a bit in this program. Yeah. Constructive alignment between the learning outcomes, the evidence of learning, the assessment criteria, and also the feedback. So these four things has got to be in tandem with one another. So when we're talking about the learning outcomes, we also must show to the students how we're going to be looking at their evidence of performance, evidences of that they can show that they're learning something or they have achieved a certain level of understanding. We talk about our assessment criteria. This is where rubrics actually come in very well, because rubrics tell us like how to assign the numerical numbers and the numerical values to the things that we see when we assess. And also feedback. Yeah, feedback. What kind of feedback are we providing? Are we doing single loop, double loop feedback? Yeah, depending on what is needed. And this is again goes back to the nature of the content that we are teaching. Yeah, so it cannot be something which is looked at in just one instance. Feedback has got to be built based on your communication with the students. So that's the reason why the interactions that we have with the students have got to be open. It has got to be perhaps repeated. It has to be something which is inviting so that the students always come back to us when they have questions and they don't feel that they are victimized, yeah, when we give them feedback. So some of the effective teaching materials that we can come up with, um, all this has got to be in tandem with, again, the learning outcomes, the learning objectives. We have to make sure that the teaching materials has got to have these factors, which is engaging. It has to be clear, concise. Yeah, the instructions are straight to the point. um, is accessible, meaning that if we want students to use an online quiz, for instance, make sure that everybody would have access to the internet. First of all, yeah, you can't have an online quiz when you know that half of the classroom actually do not have the device to go online. Flexible, meaning that if it doesn't happen on one format, perhaps your teaching material needed the students to read on a piece of paper, and then on the day of your class you realize that you were not able to print as much as you can. So instead of, katakanlah, you have about 100 people in your class and you manage to print only for 70, for whatever reasons that you don't have enough people in the office, or there's something wrong with the machine and stuff like that. So your class has got to start. So you bring the 70 pieces of your handouts, and during the class itself, this is where you can start to manipulate the seating, yeah, where the students are sitting, and to actually get them to pair work instead of doing solo. So your instructions can change on time, during the time, and you can make use of the communication that you've already built, yeah, your rapport and communication that you've already built with the students, in order to make the activities actually flow, yeah, with the teaching materials that you've already prepared. Then the other thing is regularly update your materials so that they are current, they are addressing things which are of concern during that time. So it's best to connect, yeah, the what you are teaching with things that students are reading from, social media or perhaps news. I always refer to the news headlines of the day, yeah, so that students are kept abreast with what's actually going on in the country. So why are instructional materials important? Of course, they are important because they help students learn. So with the instructional materials, we are putting together content, yeah, which is related to the content material, content knowledge that we're trying to present in the class. And these instructional materials are guidance, yeah, guidance for them to try out what they understand. It's like a sandbox of things where they get to attempt putting together something. Yeah, so the instructions on the materials are very important. Yeah, to help them enable them to do all this. So instructional materials are good when they are well suited with the way that we teach. It is suited to the audience that we're teaching. It is suited to the teaching approach that you're using. Yeah, so when they are clear, yeah, to you, and it is also constructively aligned to what you are able to do, this helps you produce materials that will motivate students to learn whatever that you're teaching. Yeah, so understand your audience first. Yeah, when we are doing the instruction materials, understand what your audience, who your audience are, and what they're able to do, who you are teaching. Yeah, what are their needs, what are their goals. There are some of the things that you can actually find out in the first day, first week of classes. Choose the learning methods that you're comfortable with. Yeah, there are many, obviously by now you've already learned so many teaching strategies that you can use, yeah, in the classroom. Mix and match, don't use just one way of doing things. Yeah, mix and match. um, be adventurous a little bit. Yeah, try out new things and find out new things as well. So don't just be happy with just one way of running a class. Vary it a little bit so your class can become interesting. Gather your resources. So find the resources that you need in order to make your classroom interesting. So it doesn't mean that when you're getting students entertained, it means that they're learning something. Yeah. So remember that. So when you choose your materials, choose the ones that you can bring it back. The conversation, you can bring it back to understanding the content knowledge itself. It's always useful to create lesson plans because lesson plans help you outline the steps that you want to take. And it's a guide really. Yeah, you're not you're not sort of chained to it. Yeah, it's not supposed to be limiting your creativity, but it is a way to sort of plan ahead, like what exactly do you need, and how much time you think you will need to carry out what you want to do in the classroom. So when you prepare the materials, after you have done your lesson plan, you can start creating the materials which is suited to the learning outcomes that you have for that lesson itself. Yeah, so your materials could be handouts, it could be in a form of presentations, it could be a video, it could be websites even, so it depends on what you want to do. Useful if you can practice, you can try it out. Yeah, sometimes I think a lot of people who are just starting to teach, sometimes they underestimate the what you call it, the time that the students would actually use in order to go through a certain learning material. So try it out first. Before, if you're not sure, try it out on yourself or on your friends. Yeah, see how long do people actually take when they are doing the materials. Evaluate as you wish, revise as you wish. When you see there were some certain maybe problems that you face, katakanlah you have like a formula that you're teaching mathematics or physics, for instance, and you have a formula that you want students to remember, and you give them maybe a few problem solving sort of questions, and you want them to go through it. Now, which ones did the students actually were able to connect with? Which ones took the longest time, for instance? Which ones took the shortest time? So these are some of the indications for you to take back to say that, perhaps you can come up with more materials at this level or this level or this level. Yeah, so make that note right after your class, so that you are able to decide what you want to do in the next class. Yeah, use this feedback to make all these different revisions, so that you can become better, yeah, in terms of preparing what you need to have, yeah, for your classes. So the next bit is about the features of what good materials make. Yeah. So again, if you notice, I'm repeating this many times already. Yeah. Alignment with the learning goals, the learning outcomes. It has to be engaging. It has to be relevant, and it has to be clear. It has to have variety. um, it's it's supposed to be accessible, it's supposed to be flexible, and the quality has got to be there. If you are asking students to say, interview, use a certain set of interview questions and go and interview people, and you want perhaps 10 interviews to be done in half an hour, so the students have to scramble and to find people to interview and stuff like that. And then there you are giving like small sheets of paper, small little sheets of paper. It's not even A4, it's like small, and students will be carrying this all over the place. Now this could probably be good if the interview is just with one or two persons, but if we 10, students might actually need, a bigger piece of paper perhaps, and maybe papers with the spaces where they can actually write the responses that they get. And when we say like they have to finish the task in half an hour, this also means that they will be in a rush. Yeah, and then small little pieces of paper may not work for them. Yeah, so you have to devise like a certain way as to how they can go around, collect the interviews, in within that time that you have allocated, using materials which is a bit more durable. Yeah, which is a bit more durable. So depending on what you have at hand, I think you have to be a bit creative in terms of using all this. Yeah. Now, there are four main types of instructional materials, and I'm going to cover this in the next bit of this video, so you don't have to spend too much time on just one video. So I'm going to stop here now, and I'm going to talk about all these four different types of instructional materials in the next video. All right. See you soon. Bye.